Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Amy Stewart from the Night Watch Childcare, and today is our fourth session in our series for mental health and parent. And what we're going to be focusing on today is confidence with your boundaries. We're about to, we're in the full throes of holiday season, and it's okay to have boundaries for your kids in regards to whose house you're going to take them to, the types of activities you're going to do. You get to decide the path you're going to take with your kids. So even if you're a younger mom, a new mom, you or dad, you still get to decide the type of boundaries you're gonna have. So I have Miss Joy here. She's amazing. I've been kind of working on and off behind the scenes with Miss Joy for a couple of years now, and she is a wealth of knowledge. So welcome, Miss Joy.
Hello, Dr. Amy. Thank you so much for having me today with this very important topic.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know I shared a little bit in our email, but just for people who didn't read it.
Yes. I am a mom of two kids, a wife and a mom of two kids. My daughter just started high school this year. She's 14. My son is 9 and he is in third grade. And I am, when I'm not doing the parenting thing, I am doing anxiety support coaching and mental health therapy, which I love. I don't see myself doing anything else really. And I do love working with families, especially with this topic of boundaries. I know it comes up a lot with my clients, especially over the holidays.
Great, great. I'm so excited to have you. I'm so excited. So, those of you that follow our weekly blogs, every week we put out a different blog and we like to keep with the same topic. So every week we've been sharing tips on how to keep really just make and maintain those boundaries with your family. I know it can be challenging, especially if it's a mom, or somebody very close to you that thinks that they should be able to have a lot of say so on what goes on in the home. And it's okay to take advice, but it's also okay to do things on your own. It's totally okay to educate yourself and do things on your own. So the first week we talked about was being choosy with the family members that you choose to have around your kids. Whether it's going to Thanksgiving or even when we had Halloween, Christmas is coming up, that you get to choose who you have your kids around. So, Joy, I'd love to hear your insight on, how we make those decisions about,
Yeah, yeah.
especially when it comes to family,
um,
we know already.
I know it's so important. Okay, the first thing that comes to mind is when we, as a society or culture, we have this statement that we put out and we say family is everything. It's a little cringy for me. Don't get me wrong. I also subscribe to that notion that family is everything and that family should be, number one and things like that. But in this day and age, let's try to focus on like where we are now, whatever situation you're in, because when that is the core belief, then that's when we feel all the guilt and all the pressure to make sure that our children are connected with families. But that's not necessarily healthy. Uh, we know as parents, you know your children best and you know your family best. So yes, please be choosy with who you surround your children with, especially in these formative years. They see you as the authority. They see you as, believe it or not, and I know there are situations when we're like, do they really see me as authority because they're very disrespectful? But trust me, trust me, but trust science that we say that these formative years they really look up to their parents. So whatever you say, wherever you present them, they will internalize all of those things, and they see you as you are infallible, right? Parents, they make no mistakes. They are perfect in your children's eyes and deep down inside. So please be mindful, because even when adults around them make mistakes, they will blame themselves. Why? It is easier for a child to look at themselves in the wrong versus an adult who's already had the experience, who's already supposed to be wise. They put them in a pedestal. So those things you have to keep in mind, and it is okay, as what Dr. Amy said, it is okay to be choosy with who you want your kids to celebrate the holidays with.
Mhm. I took some notes, like you were talking about, family being first. That I know that that is a mantra that a lot of people spout, and that's always the excuse for you're not bringing your kids around me or you're not coming around the family, family first, family first. I think we need to give ourselves some leeway to define what family means for us.
Yes.
Especially if you've moved to a new area. Like I moved away when I was 19. So like my idea of family has changed some because God has sent me other people that have become family in my life. So even if you are living near your biological family and you haven't moved away and you haven't had the experience, I think that you should be able to give yourself flexibility to define what a family means to you and
Yeah.
then use that definition to kind of screen people in your life. If family to you is somebody who is always going to be there for you, genuinely looking out for you, always has the well-being of your kids, like not every biological family member thinks about that. Some of them think about themselves first or getting mad, you're not bringing so-and-so around me. Well, then you need to think, well, why do you think I'm not bringing them around you? Like, let's have that conversation, right?
Yes.
If they're not meeting that criteria, what you want around your kids, that's all you need to say is that you're just not a good fit right now. Maybe when my kids are older, you say and do some things that I just don't want around my 3-year-old or my 5-year-old or my 10-year-old. Maybe when they're older, and you might be a great fit for when they get older, and then we can have that discussion. But I think that it should be okay for you to set that
I
definition
agree.
of. And then the other thing is, you were talking about when the kids see adults make mistakes and they don't even look at it, recognize it as a mistake, they'll put it back on them. I
Yes.
think it's important that the kids see you set these boundaries and hold them, because what happens when they're at a job with somebody that's inappropriate with them? Like I think back on 20-year-old Amy, all the times I should have been in HR having a conversation about a coworker and I never did. And I thought it was a joke or that's just how you have to deal with things. And that's not the case. So teaching kids now, even if they have to see you have a conversation with your sister or your mom and they
Yes.
see that happen, that's building memories for them. And they're going to remember the day that mom and dad stood up for them.
Yes.
And then hopefully at some point when they're maybe at school or they're in a job or they have a professor in college, that they'll say, you know what? It's okay to stand up for myself, even though this person is supposed to be in my life for a purpose, whether it's your boss, whether it's your professor, whether it's your teacher. I
Yes.
understand, but I also am allowed to have expectations of how you're going to treat me. And that stuff can start at home. Because if you can do it with a family member, it's going to be real easy to do with a boss. you know,
Yes, I know. It's the hardest one.
if you can have that tough conversation with a grandmom, then you definitely can have a conversation with a teacher. So I love that. The second thing, I think we can get through some of the icky stuff and get to the fun stuff. So, yes, setting boundaries may be some hard conversations, but another strategy is to create your own traditions and kind of use that as an excuse about why we're not coming by. Because this year we're going to try something new with our kids. So, what are some things that you see with maybe some of your families, or some traditions that you're seeing with that nuclear family, where maybe you're kind of doing things in the home as opposed to maybe going to a cousin's house or grandma's or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this approach that brought up, where we're doing something new, right? And you're really involving your kids, and I think that's a good segue to also ask your kids, like, what are some of the things that they've seen that they may want to try with the family. This year, we usually travel to the Carolinas for Thanksgiving, for example, but this year we wanted to stay home and just kind of celebrate amongst us. So we try to do some of our own things, and my daughter is actually like giving me gifts. I'm like, this is not okay. I'm not used to it because it's Thanksgiving, and it's the first year that she's actually made a card for us and like crocheted a heart for us. So those are really interesting. Your kids can come up with, things that you can do as a family. We live in Florida, so we don't have fall season, but we've done pumpkin patch with friends. Some of the things that I've seen families is they volunteer. They do community service during the holidays. They do gratitude jars. They read. Some of them, start like at the beginning of the year and then they read it towards the end of the year, and things like that. They do Christmas cakes together. They bake, and all of those things, or they attend a Christmas tree lighting in the community.
Oh yeah, we just had one of those around here last night.
Yeah, I wanted to bring the kids next week, but I have to play. Oh, not next week. In 2 weeks, we're having one, but it's on a school night, so and it's a little far from where we live. So, but yeah, those things are good. There's a lot of things that you can do in the community as well. So just think about how it drains also not just your children, actually, like how it drains you to bring them around family members who aren't really, healthy for you.
Yeah. And I love this practice because sometimes we just stay in bad situations because we don't know an alternative. As adults, we stay in jobs. I'm watching teachers
Yeah.
groves. I'm on teacher TikTok, right? Was a high school teacher.
Yes, I see your TikTok.
I'm watching them leave in droves because many of them are waking up and they're like, wait, I don't have to be in this bad situation. I can find something else. And yes, it's scary, but that mindset is this too. If if you are getting anxious at the thought of having to go to somebody's house, you don't have to do that. Like listen to that like primal urge of
Yes.
like something's not settling. It doesn't matter why, and you don't need to know the answer, and you don't owe them any explanations. We're just going to do something with our family this year. We're just going to do something small. And I'll just share a couple of things. We had a handful of things on our blog. So like a scavenger hunt, those are really fun. Whether it's going to be a Thanksgiving Day one and you hide the ingredients around the house and the kids have to find them, or at the grocery store would be fun. Even when it gets closer to Christmas, this is a great way if maybe this year you don't have $1,000 to spend on your kids for Christmas presents. One year, that's what my mom did. She just did a scavenger hunt with little notes. And so there wasn't a whole lot of presents, but the experience was something really fun. So having something like that would be interesting.
That's so
Prepping,
good.
yeah, prepping for Christmas. So, the Santa and the reindeer and things like that. Just kind of saying, hey, like, well, should we be writing notes to Santa? Are we going to write a note for the night? Do we need to send a letter now? Let's go to the mailbox. Let's make postcard. Just fun things that again don't need to cost a whole lot of money. Was a special movie night. Canva is my best friend. I just made a Black Panther movie ticket for my husband when we went last week. So like
Oh my gosh.
something fun for
So
the kids.
creative. Yes.
Gonna put on the pajamas and have some snacks. Wrapping the bedroom doors. Just taking wrapping paper and
Yeah, I like that.
wrapping
Okay.
easy because it's just the one big sheet, have the kids tape. And what was another one? Oh, and it's the other one that I think that it can kind of ease some of the issues is making a family video for the folks, kind of like a video holiday card that you can just do with your kids. The kids get the phones out, and then we're gonna send this out to everybody for Thanksgiving instead, or we're
Nice.
Christmas. So those are just a couple of things that you can start doing that really don't cost any money if anything. But I do love the option of this is another opportunity to teach kids to get out of a bad situation. If it's not sitting right in your heart and spirit and your
Yeah.
family, we don't have to do that. Let's try something else. And I love your suggestion of getting the kids involved. And I think that's really cool that your daughter is making the
Yeah.
because I mean it's Thanksgiving, but really like why can't you do that kind of stuff? Like if it's a season of giving thanks, then why can't we show gratitude like literally with things, with gifts,
Yes.
things to each other, instead of just food. So I love that. So then we'll just segue into the last question, was prepping for large family gatherings. So for our blog, I'll just share some of the things that we talked about and then I'll let you as the expert. Um, so the first one was listening to your kids. Like if they're already, and not just things that they're saying, what are some behaviors that you would say that kids are exhibiting when they are not wanting to go to somebody's house?
Hmm. Um, Sometimes so younger kids, they may not have the vocabulary that we expect, right? So that's such a good question. If they're exhibiting or telling you that they're feeling something in their body, like, oh, my stomach hurts, or I have a headache, or you see their posture. I'm a somatic I work with like body intelligence as well, so somatic experiencing. So posture is very telling, especially with kids. If you see them kind of shrink or contract a little bit, that might be a sign. Just ask them, hey, are you okay? Like, what are you feeling? And things like that. Or because sometimes the body will tell you before your brain can say the word. So that's that's going to be something that you might want to look for with the younger, children. With the older ones, you can just ask them if they're like, if they're being irritable, sometimes that's a sign of anxiety. Please don't take it to heart that they're being disrespectful or talking back to you. You can calm the situation down a little bit and just ask them, like, is there anything that you want to tell me? Like, you're usually not this, this is new for me. I'm hearing this, from you the first time. So tell me a little bit more of what's going on and things like that. So,
Say the high schoolers, the teenagers, when they're saying things like, this is stupid, this is dumb. I don't,
yes,
is it really stupid that we're going to grandma's? Like, why is it stupid? Like, let's circle back. And I
yes,
touched on that sometimes your body will give you a clue before your mind can catch up. I think
yes.
it's really important, especially when going to family members that you don't typically go to. If your kids haven't gone to a family member's house in 3 years and the last time they went, something happened and nobody said anything, they
Uh,
didn't you they just the thought of walking through the door, the smells of that house, like things are going to start triggering in their body, and they might not like it may have tucked away in the back of their little brain, and you
yes.
don't even know why they're geeking out, you know what I mean? And you're watching your kid throw a tantrum, just getting him into the car. Like, those are things that we need to be alert to. I'm not saying just because your kid throws a temper tantrum on the way to the aunt's house that they were molested. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying,
Right, right.
don't disregard the actions.
Yes.
They could be tired. They could need a snack. Let them sleep. Give them a snack. You're a teenager too. They could be hungry and tired. But I
Right.
also think too much of that stuff gets ignored. And that's why the statistics look the way that they do, that your child is more likely to get harmed with a family friend or a family member than they are with a stranger. So I think that we need to keep having those conversations because it keeps happening. So yeah, but I'll just move on from that.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, the second tip we had was a no kids in the back room. A lot of the big family, and I understand you wanting time with adults. I get that. But what are some suggestions you might have for an alternative for sending the children kind of away to give adults some adult time, just so everybody remains safe?
Oh, that's a good one. I know that for our 9-year-old, for example, he has friends over sometimes. We have neighbors that he plays with, and he started to close the door and things like that. So we had to have that conversation of like, no, no, you cannot do that. You cannot lock the door. So you can play there, right? And then I would stay in the kitchen, which is directly like, towards his room and things like that. So I would suggest like in a large gathering, try to just keep your eyes open and then make sure that they're in sight
Mhm.
somehow, right?
Yeah.
Like it's okay for them to have their own time. Maybe set up a table, for them, um, kind of distanced away from the adults so they can have their conversations. Yesterday, I brought my daughter and her friends to a restaurant and I sat across from them just so they can have their, alone time and they can scream and giggle because that's usually what they do now. So, and I can eat my dinner in peace. So, things like that. I agree. I don't necessarily approve that they have to be like, somewhere secluded and isolated. Set up a place for them. Have like a tablecloth and like a centerpiece for them, so they also feel like they are part of the party, but also have their own, space to enjoy.
Yeah, I like that of them having their own table. And even if the kids know ahead of time, having them like prepare for it, making centerpieces, like
Yes,
they
that's
could be
good.
zooming and FaceTiming with the cousins of like, well, how are we going to decorate our table? Like getting them excited about that
Yes.
idea of having their own space. Because it is unfortunate. Like if something bad has happened to one kid in that room and then they're all left together, somehow it could spread like chickenpox just through the whole room in one Thanksgiving. And then it's everyone's changed forever. Like it can be bad. Um,
Yes.
what else you were saying about giving them their own space? Oh, as the adults, additionally preparing, like, so when the meal is over and everybody kind of wants to chill and relax, bringing board games, things like
Yes.
things, like potato sack races, get the pillowcases out, just preparing, just spending 10-15 minutes and saying, okay, these are going to be 20 things. Google it. Like you don't need to come up with it fresh. 20
Yes.
things that we can have ready for these kids to go because they're gonna have a lot of, they're eating cake and pie and they're gonna have cookies and they're hyped up on sugar and they're around their cousins and they're really excited. Let's give them something to do so they're not driving you crazy, so that please. And I love that you allow your daughter to have a table. My mom used to do the same thing, and I thought now I'm realizing why. So she could have her own space. So it's actually,
Win-win, right?
but you know what I mean? And it's teaching them to have fun while you're still like watching.
Around. Yes.
So
Yes.
even if that's, again, going back to the initial thing of defining what's appropriate for your family may not understand why. Well, we always send the kids in the back room. Well, this year I thought we could try something new. So it doesn't necessarily need to be this heavy conversation of, I don't want my kids in the back room because I don't want one of your kids to molest my child.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, who wants to have that conversation over turkey and gravy? But if you come prepared and say, hey, I thought we could try something a little different this year. I brought some cool games. I wanted to try something neat with the kids. I mean, they've got all kind of fun, viral family activities. Like, one year we did, where you wrap up a bunch of boxes, like a box inside of a box inside of a box, and you like cover it in packing tape. And I think like each person had like 30 seconds to like try to rip
Wow.
their layer off. I don't know, like Googling things. Like people have all kind of fun games. You can go to the dollar store and spend $10 and get all kind of fun things to do with the kids. So, what else do we have? Oh, the last one is just, and you kind of touched on it, is just having honest conversations with your kids about
Oh,
what to expect and teaching them the red flags about, whether it's body parts that you're not supposed to touch or this idea of having secrets. I saw a TikTok the other day and this lady was calling them sneaky adults. And so things that an adult would ask you that are sneaky, if it's, can you help me, blah, 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 blah. Well, an adult should be asking another adult to help you with something. Oh, can you help me? I'm in the bathroom. Can you help me with my pants? I'm just using that as an example.
yes.
Be a sneaky adult. If an adult needs help in the bathroom, they should be asking another adult, as opposed to when a teacher says, can you help me clean these crayons up? And then she explained to her kids, that's your job. Your job as a kid is to clean up your toys and your crayons. So that's not a sneaky question. And she just kind of went through and gave examples. And I really like this idea of a sneaky adult or just sneaky questions and sneaky things. If someone's asking you to shut the door, why? Why are we shutting the door? And it empowers your kids, even when they're little, even if you think they're not understanding, I promise you they're understanding. Think about memories
Yeah.
you had. But when you were little, I mean, I've got memories from before my parents got divorced when I was 4. I remember living in that house. So if my 3-year-old, 2-year-old self can remember things, please have some confidence in your 5 and 6-year-old that you can have these conversations. And
Yes.
as uncomfortable as you think it is, I promise you having this uncomfortable conversation is going to save your child a lifetime of uncomfortability when they think that
So
they
good.
something wrong and they should have told you. Because that's when kids do sometimes come to parents about an issue, that's usually the first thing out of the parent's mouth. Why didn't you come and tell me? Then that puts the blame on the child.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Dad, you should have already had this conversation with me. But again, you think it's family and you don't need to have those conversations. And it's unfortunate. We just need to. So
Yes.
what are some tips, if you could maybe offer some tips for the younger kids and then maybe a conversation, because even though your kids are older, it's not too late. If you have not had this
No,
conversation
it's not. Mm-hmm.
at 17, have a conversation. How would you differentiate those conversations between your youngers and your olders?
I want to borrow the word that you said, empower. I think if we come from a place of like, okay, I want to empower my kids to make the right decisions versus I'm really scared and I know it's scary out there and I'm really worried. The energy is very different, right? Like, okay, I'm having this conversation because I want my kids to feel empowered, and that they have a say in what happens in their, in their own boundaries and in their own limits. And when people violate those things, they can step up even if it's an adult that they're dealing with. For younger kids, I'll send you the link, Dr. Amy, but there's books that I've used with my son. And to be honest, I didn't have this conversation with my older one who's now 14, and we're just having it, with her maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. So you're absolutely right. It's never too late. But with our younger one, because I was a little bit more aware as a parent, then I brought in books. Like there's one that is very simple. It's called Personal Space Camp. It's on Amazon. Very simple, talking about like boundaries and what is a personal space. And even for him, right, as a 9-year-old, like, you can't just like force yourself into spaces where you're, especially if your friends say, no, you can't be in this side of the line. So it's also going to teach them how to respect other people, as well as, for other people to respect their space. For the younger, the toddler ones, definitely books are, I would say, the way to go. But one of the things that I tell parents is that read the book first yourself, formulate your own questions. Like, okay, how would I present this? What would I want to ask my child to make sure they understand, what we're reading and things like that. For the older ones, the teenagers, they know more than us. So just go right. I wouldn't say like just with my teenager, I just go right into it. I'm straightforward because I know she probably knows more than what we've already told her. If you have that kind of relationship with your, teenager, definitely. If this is something that is new for you, I would say work on, because it was awkward for me to bring it up, to my daughter. So work on the awkwardness on yourself, right? And then once you feel like, okay, I can now come from a place of love and I am just empowering my teen, then have that conversation. Have you guys, one of the things that is also a good opener is, are you learning this in school? Like, what are some of the things that you're talking about in school regarding boundaries? Because I know in the recent years they've been talking about mental health in schools. They're bringing that a little bit more. Um, so that has been my conversation starter with my teen too. So she'll say, "Oh, we talked about depression this week. Oh, great! Like, what did you learn? Things like that." So if nothing else, just ask them. Are you having conversations like this at school or things like that? And listen, whenever they share about their friend situations, you can also circle
Mhm.
back.
Yeah, I like that, especially with the older ones, because they may be more willing to talk about their friends' problems
Yes.
than theirs. And the fact that they brought it up, again, not necessarily say that that's on them, but it's definitely on their mind.
Yeah.
And they've realized
Yes.
that there's a problem going on and they're looking for guidance. And then that could be just a teaching opportunity to help them kind of navigate, and whether it's a broken heart or, you know,
Yes. Yes.
I love that. I love that. Okay, well, great, great. Thank you so much. All right, Michelle,
Thank
if you
you.
could just share how people can get a hold of you. I know you had some great books. And if you wouldn't mind maybe emailing me maybe a title or two, and then we can include that
Yes.
in our little link with YouTube and whatnot. So yeah, so how can we find you?
I am on Instagram and TikTok. My handle is Joy Acaso. I do share reels there and resources. Also, and my website is joyacaso.com, and there is you can sign up for a free mental wellness guide that you can use for yourself and also teach your children.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and a wealth of information. And I think this is really going to empower some of our parents and really give them the tools to
Yes.
stand firm in their parenting. Um, sometimes kids are planned and sometimes they're not. And even when they are, I think, kids don't come with instruction manuals, and we're just trying to figure it out as you go. And so this is a way that you can continue to figure it out, that it doesn't matter how you were parented. It doesn't matter the
Yep.
were exposed to, whether it was aunts and grandmas and things like that. You get to be a gentle parent if you want. You get to be a
Yes.
respectful parent if you want. You get to be a bold, confident parent if that's what you want to do. And the value that that's going to show your kids when they, not just when they parent, but when they become professionals. You said something, we were talking about the older kids. Um, it doesn't matter. All of these skills that you're teaching your kids are going to translate into the rest of the world. The how they interact with
Yep.
you is going to influence how they interact with everybody else. And watching you stand up for them, even if they're getting, because especially if they're used to going in that back room and playing, they're used to having their private time with everybody. Like they're going to get mad at you at first, but
Yeah.
they're going to
Good
remember
point.
that you made the unpopular choice, because this could cause a fight at the family Thanksgiving,
That's right.
and they're going to remember that time. And then there's going to be a later date and they're going to remember, wow, mom was just trying to keep me safe. Dad was just trying to keep me safe. And they're going to remember that. Like I promise, like for the crying that they're going to have when you're pulling them out of the family function, because there was a fight, I promise that they're going to remember, like, no, she was fighting for me. So.
Yeah, I agree.
So anyway, we just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and have a very restful and safe break. And you too, well, Joy. I thank you so much for hopping over.
Thank you so much for having
So,
me.
all right, my darling. Well, I will go ahead and end this up, and you guys have a great day. See you
You
next time.
too. See
And
you.
remember, we will not be having another event. We will pick this up again in January. And remember, with your registration, you also got a free family memory book that you can take pictures and send them to the family members you decide that you don't want to see this.
Oh, that's a good one.
Too.
You have so many ideas. I love it. I love it. I'm
Good.
serious.
I hope that they're helpful. So, all right. Thank you guys so much.